Compelled, I completed a clandestine operation focused on cleaning the floor of this disgusting bathroom. I can't have a work of art like this overshadowed by a haven of feces and narcotic discards. I need the focus centered on my subject. The ivory floor perfectly complemented the gray matter that is laying down in a Christ-like pose. A now pristine layer of ivory greets the back of the man whose maw is obscured by a lunar creature, a lunar moth to be more specific. The absolute jubilation in this moment will never be knocked down, even if the authorities remove it. Gears are turning from the outside world. Restless public opinion, restless insanity, and cognition. No one can understand what to make of this display of brutality, public or otherwise. I'll get right to the question at hand. Yes, I may be deranged. I may be thought of as a threat to society. I may even be considered deranged and antisocial. In fact, I have been officially diagnosed as being borderline personality and sociopathic. With a duo of diagnoses like that, I probably should have been locked up with the key thrown into an active volcano. I suppose it was easier and more lucrative to throw a sack of pills at me. Enough to incapacitate a horse. It never helped. It only made me wonder why I am the way I am. To be fair, I only took them for a short period of time. I realized they deadened the bliss inside me. Was I born like this? Or did something along my path push me towards this? Perhaps it's a mix of both, as most things in life are. There is no plain black and white answer, but in the end, does it matter? They still die. I still obliterate and will go on. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Your Honor, I enjoy doing these things. You cannot scare me with incarceration or death. I live in death. I wish for it every day. You are all too stupid and lame to find me. Deliver me from this evil. I beg you. I beg you. But you won't. I've finally come to the end of the yellow brick road in accepting this. 2 weeks ago, my wife was beside me. She's a Marilyn Monroe type, a throwback to the most classic of beauties. She's too good for me. Not only did I know that, but her mother never let me forget it. I made a comfortable living as a consultant, providing a nice 2-story, 4-bedroom home. I was able to put our twins through private school. She never spent a dime on any of our expenses. As she was a classical beauty, she also played the classical housewife. She cleaned and cooked. For that I am thankful. But pressure had to be relieved. The pipes can only take so much. Her and I had found ourselves watching an alligator wrestler. Odd sentence, I know, I intended on explaining. Florida, Everglades. We haven't had a vacation since our children were born in tandem. Over 13 years to be exact. Her lovely mother happily agreed to watch the girls, allowing us to take a road trip down to the Sunshine State. Hey, look, honey. It's an alligator show. Let's go. Please, please, please. I tried to hide my contempt. I wasn't here to watch a redneck wrestle an alligator. I can barely contain my murderous self. I can barely contain myself acting human anymore. I find that the only human connection I do have, however, is my wife. She has somehow cut through the icy cold exterior. Turns out even sociopaths have breaks in their armor. Okay, I gritted, not taking my eyes off the road. You want to see the show? We'll We'll see the show. I give her a robotic smile, again not taking my eyes off the road. There's another reason we were driving to the middle of Florida, one that no one else will find out about, hopefully. But I am happy to keep up appearances. We turn off the exit that boasted the supposed world-famous alligator fighter. She looked up the show times on her phone. Luckily, the next one is only about 60 minutes away. She's so happy to see a man wrestle a dinosaur. I'll admit, my caveman brain somehow enjoyed it. It wasn't what I expected. It wasn't some fat mulleted hillbilly slapping around a somewhat domesticated alligator. Goose, the owner of the alligator farm, had a headset on, allowing him to speak to the crowd of 30 or so people. He gave some interesting facts about alligators and other Florida-specific animals. It was educational, entertaining also.
Okay, folks, say hi to Lily, the oldest lady on the farm.
Goose yelled with glee. An assistant opened a door to the pit where Goose was inside of, allowing an absolute monster to come slithering in. Lily was awesome. Almost 12 feet in length, her green coloring was almost neon. I thought it had something to do with the way the sun hit her ancient scales. The crowd oohed and awed. I sat cross-armed, watching the predator survey her surroundings.
Look at that fat bitch,
a pimply-faced dummy spat out, nudging his plump friend. They both laughed and pointed at the alligator. I don't think Goose heard them. The crowd might have, but ignored it. Goose did some more explaining about her hunting habits, getting closer.
Kill that piece of shit,
Pimply shithead said. Now the crowd was getting a little uncomfortable. Goose gave one short glance towards us. Trying to keep his composure, he did have a killer beast in front of him after all. Our host got uncomfortably close to Lily, reaching his hands in and out of her open jaws. In one short motion, he closed her jaws and jumped behind her.
You see, y'all, the alligator has an insane amount of pressure when biting. If you're caught in this lady's jaws, it's game over. However, they do not have the power to open their jaws if any amount of pressure is placed on them.
We watched then as he straddled the beast, reaching for her massive head and placing it underneath his own chin. His arms extended, he was now in complete control of Lily. Impressive. Shithead 1 and 2 started to throw popcorn towards the pit. A fire was being stroked in my belly. Here I was, not expecting to be a part of this in the first place, and now I'm ready to dismember these kids for interrupting Goose and disturbing the show. I looked towards my wife. She was visibly upset by the occurrence. This just won't do. Goose, for his outside appearance as a fat bumpkin, kept his composure and finished the show as a true professional. He finished the show by thanking us and explaining how tips were appreciated and merch could be found on our way out by the stand leading towards the exit. I gave my wife a $100 bill, telling her to grab us a couple of t-shirts and hats. I had to use the restroom, I said. I followed the disruptor's path as they made their way to the exit. Still laughing and being idiots, I try to be human. As much as I fight to be normal, I never win. The young men were standing just outside the entrance to Gator World, smoking. They would never know that this was the last cigarette they'd ever smoke. "Hey guys," I said, getting their attention. I dragged both boys, separately, into the edge of the swamp right outside the entrance. I tucked my garrote into my pocket, cloth in a Gator World napkin. Why do you make me do this? Back on the road again. Glad she enjoyed the show. It's 5 a.m. My lovely Marilyn Monroe doppelganger is still sleeping. I slip outside the motel. I wandered, absorbing the humid swamp-like surroundings. I discovered a wonderland. Garden Park. I found a beautiful, sun-warmed bench. With my dark Ray-Bans on, I surveyed the beautiful landscape. A lovely blonde would bounce by, accompanied by an excited young man, boyfriend, husband maybe. Mr. and Mrs. Upbeat would be staying at what looked like an Airbnb at the edge of the park. Well-dressed, full of youth, they exited the rental with coffees. Equipped with a bouquet of lilies and a disarming smile, I walked by them. I introduced myself as a charming businessman of the area. I was supposed to meet a date, but she had to cancel due to a prior engagement that slipped her mind. That was the story, at least. I explained why I had these gorgeous flowers and offered them to her, with her friend's permission, of course. They were both flattered. I shook his hand, firm but soft. I then shook her hand, smooth and soft. Precious fingers adorned with black cherry polish, her palm faint lines. A rush came over me. I had to constrict an embarrassing protrusion. They both thanked me, saying they had to catch the next lift to their friend's place for brunch. I smiled and displayed my thankfulness for them taking those lilies off my hands. I didn't get her name. She wasn't just a person, she was the one. The fire, the life, the one I had been looking for. I knew what I had to do. I quietly entered the key into our motel door. Maryland was still sleeping. I quickly analyzed what needed to be done. The pillow I had used to sleep just a few hours before would now be her instrument of death. Good night, princess. I have a slight feeling of melancholy, but I am not sorry. This was always how our story would end. I was now engaged with plans, including being part of this new duo I had just met and supplied with flowers. They invited me and a guest to have dinner that night. I happily agreed. I needed to feel her soft and supple hands again. I would be meeting them alone. I located them in an outdoor cafe near the beach, dressed in all black with loafers and no socks. I smiled as I approached. My appearance was caught by their gaze, greeted with a warm smile from the woman. A smile warmer than the Florida sun we were under. The clock ticked. Laughter was heard. Early dinner was had. I spent most of the interaction admiring the woman's red jumpsuit. A romper is what is most likely known as these days. A brief question as to where my date was. A brief response that she was running late. People are so easily fooled or trusting. Her gentleman friend stated his desire to evacuate in the men's room. We both smiled as he left.
Let me get us another drink,
I said playfully as I excused myself to approach the bar. She gave me a little wink and crossed her legs. I am on fire. As I made my way back to our table, I took a moment to enjoy the salty smell coming from the sea. I don't know how I traveled this far from the middle of the state to the coast. I don't question my periods of darkness anymore.
Oh, you got us another drink. Good on you, my friend.
Her man-thing exported. I winked and raised my own glass. We gave a little cheer with our late afternoon drinks. A thought raced to Marilyn. I wondered if anyone called or found her yet. As we all took our generous sips, I suggested the Aphrodite and I take a look at the water. Would you order us another calamari? I asked the man. He was already spinning, and happy to do so. As her and I left, I'm sure I heard a faint cough. Then the sound of his head hitting the table, rustling the plates and glasses on the table as we left. We were already on the beach when this happened, and her focus was on the crashing waves and circling seagulls. As long as I can get her as far away as possible from the scene, I would be okay. The wheels have already been set in motion. This train would not be stopping. Look at her, a golden goddess, so oblivious to everything around her. Sadly, she does not realize the monster she is walking with, barefoot, on the beach. The bliss is filling my being. From my feet to my brain, she must just be realizing that her friend has not made it out here. I've seen this look before. The realization. When I'm hunting, when I'm closing in, all light and sound disappear. It's dark now. Her face reacts accordingly, her decimating blue eyes looking into my black. They grow wider and wider, humorously how big they become. The life being taken from her, constricted from her. I can't help what I am. It has been determined. I have no choice. I am not sorry. Some people like one type of cola. Some people like the competitor. Some actually prefer the citrus pops. I've always liked the pepper, the alternative. It's just something different that you can't explain. Why do we like what we like? I suppose we'll always be searching for that elusive answer.